A red caboose in the middle of a green pasture. A chapel with a fireplace overlooking a lake. A winding driveway through 843 acres of rolling Tennessee woodlands. Is this a scene from a southern fairy tale? Not quite. This is the real-life sanctuary of country music legend Vince Gill, a place where melodies echo through the trees and love lives in every stone, stream, and swing. Today, we'll walk through the gates of his secret Tennessee farm, explore his Spanish-style Los Angeles mansion, uncover his classic car collection, and step into the quiet, soulful rhythm of a life lived far from the spotlight, yet richer than ever. Are you ready? Let's begin. Before the standing ovations, before the Grammys, before the $1 million farm in Tennessee, there was a boy with a beat-up guitar and a dream. Vince Gill was born on April 12, 1957 in Norman, Oklahoma, a quiet southern town where music didn't just play through radios, it breathed through the walls of his family home. His father, Stan Gill, was a judge by day, but in the evenings, he cradled a banjo or a guitar, his fingers dancing on the strings like he was speaking a second language. His mother, Jareen, sang and played the harmonica with a calm grace that would later echo in Vince's own soft tenor voice. So when Vince first picked up his grandmother's old guitar at the age of 5 and played Old Shep, something clicked. Not just with him, but with everyone around him. Could a boy this young already carry that much soul in his sound? By 8, he was performing Long Tall Texan with his half-brother Bob on a local radio show. And at school, he would entertain his classmates, bringing his guitar to class to perform The House of the Rising Sun. He wasn't the loudest kid, he wasn't the show-off, but when he played, people listened. How did this small-town boy become a master of not just the guitar, but also the dobro, the mandolin, the fiddle, and the banjo, all before he hit adulthood? Some say it was raw talent. Others say it was obsession. But the truth, it was both. Vince practiced relentlessly. He studied the way musicians moved, how they bent notes, how they poured stories into strings. He discovered bluegrass music thanks to a friend of his father's. And it changed everything. The fire of Appalachian sound lit something deep in him. After high school, he founded his first band, Mountain Smoke. And then came one of the most surreal moments of his young career, opening for the hard rock band Kiss in 1976. It didn't go well. The crowd, craving distortion and fire, booed and threw things at the stage. What did Vince do? He flipped them the bird and walked off. That moment could have broken a lot of young musicians. But for Vince, it was a test. Could he stand his ground? Would he keep going even when the crowd hated him? The answer was yes. After Mountain Smoke disbanded, he moved to Kentucky and played with bluegrass legends like Bluegrass Alliance and Boone Creek, performing alongside a young Ricky Skaggs. He was learning, absorbing, evolving. Then, in 1976, another leap to Los Angeles. There, he joined the band Sundance, backing fiddler Byron Berline. It was a short-lived chapter, but it planted a seed. Vince Gill wasn't meant to live in the background. He had something to say, something to sing. In 1979, the next big door opened. He joined Pure Prairie League, a country rock group riding the waves of radio airplay. Vince stepped in as lead vocalist and helped launch their hit single, Let Me Love You Tonight, which climbed into the top 10. But success with a band wasn't enough. There was a voice inside him, soft but firm, telling him he had to go solo. So he left the band, joined Cherry Bombs as a backing musician for Rodney Crowell, and eventually found his way to his first solo record deal with RCA. The early albums? Modest success. Nothing flashy. No platinum plaques yet. And then came 1989. That was the moment. That was the storm. He signed with MCA Records. Released When I Call Your Name. The album went multi-platinum. The title track, a soaring, tender ballad, reached the top 10 on the Billboard country charts and introduced Vince to the world as more than just a musician. He was a storyteller. With Pocket Full of Gold in 1991 and I Still Believe in You a year later, Vince Gill cemented his place in country music royalty. The awards followed. The fans multiplied. But fame didn't change him. In fact, it pushed him to find somewhere to stay grounded, to find a home that matched his spirit. Could that be why he built a southern retreat in the heart of Tennessee? Let's find out. farm in Tennessee. When Vince Gill first laid eyes on the stretch of land in Putnam County, Tennessee, something in his soul stirred. It wasn't just property, it wasn't even just beauty, it was peace. And for a man who had spent decades under stage lights and behind microphones, peace was priceless. Spread across more than 843 acres, Vince's Tennessee farm isn't just vast, it's cinematic. It begins the moment you pass through one of 3 gated entrances, each more private and inviting than the last. A winding driveway leads you up through rolling green hills, past a 7-acre fishing lake that sparkles beneath the southern sun. To the right, the water seems to whisper stories of lazy afternoons, fly fishing, and maybe even a lyric or two that came to Vince while watching the ripples dance. But it's what sits at the hilltop that truly takes your breath away. There, perched with panoramic views of the land below, is a storybook chapel. This isn't a museum piece, it's a living, breathing space for weddings, quiet prayer, or moments of reflection. Its design is warm and timeless, with a wraparound porch and a fireplace that burns both inside and out, looking over the lake like a loyal sentinel. Just beyond it, a restored antique horse barn, now turned into a dreamlike wedding venue. Climate-controlled, but rustic. Elegant, yet simple. The perfect blend of southern charm and functionality, just like Vince himself. But the farm doesn't stop at first impressions. Follow a wooded trail, and you'll stumble upon a second, smaller lake. Nestled beside it is something almost surreal, a split log cabin from the early 1800s, lovingly restored with an artist's eye. Step inside, and it feels like time slows. Wooden beams, antique finishes, and echoes of simpler days when music was shared face to face on front porches. This isn't just for show. This is the kind of place Vince might sit with a guitar, the screen door open, the wind carrying melodies down into the hollers. There are 10 open fields on the land, each one a potential home site, each offering unbroken views of the rolling mountains. But perhaps the most whimsical part of the farm lies tucked between these fields. A bright red caboose sitting proudly on a short stretch of covered railroad track. Why a caboose? Because Vince Gill doesn't just collect things. He collects moments, memories, symbols of journeys and destinations, even if they're metaphorical. The surrounding forest is as rich as the melodies he's written, dotted with outcrops of ancient rock, marketable hardwoods, and miles of groomed trails ready for horseback rides, long walks, or quiet retreats into the trees. There's even a natural cave, reachable by a stone path and tiny bridge, with seasonal springs that feed the small lake below. When the rain falls just right, you can hear the water trickling into the cave's mouth. Nature's own lullaby, perfect for a man who made his living through sound. And despite its solitude, the farm is surprisingly connected. Cookeville and Livingston are just 10 minutes away. Knoxville and Nashville? A smooth 90-mile drive. So Vince is never far from a recording session, a charity gala, or an impromptu duet at the Opry. This land isn't about showing off. It's about showing up. To life, to love, to everything that matters once the crowd goes home. You get the sense that Vince and Amy walk these woods often, that they know every stone and branch, that birthdays are celebrated by bonfires, not banquets, that here, unlike anywhere else, music and marriage, work and wonder all find perfect balance. So many celebrities buy land, but Vince Gill, he claimed a home, one that breathes with memory, meaning, and Southern soul. But while the Tennessee farm holds his heart, there's another home, far across the country, that holds his creative soul. Let's take a flight west, to Los Angeles, to a house built nearly a century ago, yet more timeless than ever, Mansion in California. Imagine stepping into a postcard from 1920s California. Now imagine that postcard is real, perched high above the iconic neighborhood of Los Feliz, hidden behind grand gates, shaded by towering trees, and filled with stories whispered into sunlit hallways. This is Vince Gill and Amy Grant's second home, a breathtaking Spanish colonial revival mansion. Built in 1922, nestled in nearly 1.5 acres of manicured gardens, and valued at a cool $10 million. Why would a country music legend rooted in the southern hills of Tennessee choose to retreat to the hills of Los Angeles? Perhaps the better question is, how could he not? Because this mansion isn't just a home, it's a haven, a meeting of art, history, and stillness. From the moment you enter, it feels like a movie set designed for someone who lives between verses and verses, with a touch of magic in every line. Inside, original wooden beams soar overhead, stretching across rooms bathed in warm light. The ceilings, hand-painted, feel like they belong in a European chapel, and each living space, from the grand sitting room to the intimate music corners, is wrapped in soft earth tones and timeless textures. Everything feels curated, yet comfortable. The renovation was entrusted to Commune Design, one of LA's most respected interior studios. They didn't just modernize, they respected. The result? A house that still carries the bones and soul of the 1920s, but breathes with quiet luxury. The formal dining room opens directly onto a sprawling terrace, perfect for moonlit dinners or lazy Sunday brunches overlooking the city skyline. The study is cozy yet commanding. Wood-paneled walls, a grand fireplace, and an energy that suggests it's hosted more than one creative brainstorm or late-night lyric session. But perhaps the most enchanting part of the main floor is the entertainment suite, a tucked-away card room with rich, dark textures, a place for laughter, strategy, and maybe even a little music between friends. And then there's the kitchen, reimagined as an open concept space where function meets elegance. Stainless steel meets aged brass. Buttery natural light flows through oversized windows, illuminating a breakfast nook that looks out onto the private garden patio. Upstairs, 2 magnificent bedroom suites. The primary suite is flooded with California sun and framed by vintage arched windows. It includes a completely renovated bathroom, tastefully designed in soft marble and warm tile with a classic freestanding tub, perfect for soaking after long studio hours. The walk-in closet is spacious yet discreet, with views that stretch across the hillside. The second suite, just across the hall, is equally refined, with its own updated bath and peaceful views of the garden below. But the true wonder of this home isn't just inside. Step outside and it becomes something else entirely. The backyard is a sanctuary, a freeform pool, a cold plunge tub, an outdoor theater, and a fire pit corner wrapped in tall hedges and flowering vines. You can practically hear the laughter echoing from summer nights spent with friends, with Amy's soft vocals in the background, and Vince's guitar humming along under the stars. Stone paths wind through koi ponds, shaded benches, and hidden corners, each space designed for meditation, conversation, or a moment of solitude. It's the kind of place where music is written without pressure, where creativity is nurtured without noise, and where the only performance that matters is the one done for yourself, barefoot on a garden stone, with no one watching but the wind. This isn't a party house. It's a poetry house. It's not the kind of place you buy to impress. It's the kind you inherit from a past life and guard with devotion. Vince and Amy don't use this Los Angeles estate to escape Nashville. They use it to connect to another part of themselves. The part that loves film, loves space, loves silence. The part that sees Los Angeles not as a city of chaos, but as a city of possibility. 2 homes, 2 coasts, 2 pieces of one remarkable life. But while these homes tell one story, there's another kind of machine that says even more about the man behind the music. It's time to turn the key and open the garage. In a world where most celebrities chase speed and luxury, Vince Gill does something different. His cars aren't just status symbols, they're companions. Rolling memories wrapped in chrome and steel. Let's begin with a classic that started it all. Cars. 1984 Cadillac. It's not flashy, not loud, but this Cadillac represents a milestone, a symbol of when Vince's career started taking off. Back in the mid-80s, he was climbing fast. His songs were playing across America, and this Cadillac was the car that carried him from gig to gig. Nashville, Memphis, Kentucky, sometimes alone, sometimes with Amy by his side. The ride was smooth, the leather seats worn in all the right places, and the cassette deck always playing bluegrass or gospel. For Vince, this wasn't a luxury. It was a moving cocoon where melodies formed and lyrics brewed. 1960 Chevrolet CK pickup truck. Now this one is pure Americana. The Chevy CK isn't the kind of truck you buy new off the lot in Beverly Hills. It's the kind you inherit, or find on a dusty back road and restore with your own hands. Vince's CK is all about character, faded red paint, a bed that's hauled everything from guitars to hay bales, a bench seat where his daughter once sat, giggling as he let her drive on the private trails of his Tennessee farm. It's the kind of vehicle you feel, not just drive. He often takes it out early in the morning, just him, the birdsong, and the winding roads around his property. And somehow, that old V8 engine still hums like a hymn. Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz. Ah, the Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz. Sleek, stylish, a little over the top, and that's the point. This one's a showpiece. Long body, chrome for days, with that unmistakable 50s tail fin flare. Vince first drove it to a benefit concert years ago. The crowd may have come for the music, but they turned their heads when this beauty pulled up, gliding like a yacht on asphalt. It's not the fastest car in his garage, but it's the one that makes people smile the most. Sometimes, Vince says, he just parks it in the driveway, sits on the hood with his guitar, and watches the sun go down over Tennessee. Because some rides aren't about the destination, they're about the feeling. Each of these vehicles tells a different story of career highs, quiet mornings, family rides, and spontaneous road trips with Amy. They're extensions of a lifestyle that's part vintage, part timeless. So while others race for the newest engine or the flashiest badge, Vince Gill chooses the kind of cars that age like songs, the kind you never want to replace. But how does he afford such comfort and still remain so grounded? To answer that, we'll need to follow the money, because behind the soft-spoken ballads lies a career worth millions. Let's talk income, royalties, and how Vince Gill built a fortune the quiet way. It all started with one deal. In 1989, after modest success with RCA, Vince Gill signed with MCA Records, and everything changed. His debut album under the new label, When I Call Your Name, wasn't just a hit, it was a statement. It sold over 1 million copies, earned him a Grammy, and opened the door to a new tier of fame and fortune. From there, the hits kept rolling. Albums like Pocket Full of Gold and I Still Believe in You didn't just top the charts, they became platinum certified staples in country music history. And with each hit came more than applause. It brought royalties, touring revenue, and licensing rights that stacked higher than a Tennessee hay bale. But music sales were just the beginning. Over his career, Vince has earned 22 Grammy Awards, more than any male country artist in history. Alongside those are 18 CMA Awards, including 2 coveted Entertainer of the Year wins. And with accolades come opportunities, higher performance fees, television specials, and collaborations with legends. In the early 2000s, Vince expanded further. He joined forces with the Time Jumpers, bringing a fresh swing vibe to Nashville's stage. But perhaps his most lucrative and surprising move came in 2017, when he joined the Eagles, stepping in after the passing of Glenn Frey. Touring with one of the most successful bands of all time meant big business. We're talking sold-out arenas, multi-million-dollar tour legs, and a whole new generation discovering Vince's voice. Estimates suggest that touring with the Eagles alone added millions to his already growing fortune. Add to that songwriting royalties from more than 40 charting singles, guest vocals on albums from artists like Bonnie Tyler, Emmylou Harris, and Alison Krauss, TV appearances, benefit performances, and musical tributes that paid both in exposure and paycheck. All told, Vince Gill's net worth is estimated at $30 million. Yet what makes it all remarkable isn't the number, it's what he chooses to do with it. Because behind every dollar earned, there's a cause that he quietly and powerfully supports. Let's talk about the man the media calls the kindest soul in Nashville. Let's talk about his legacy of giving. Philanthropy. Long before the gold records, before the mansions, before the million-dollar tours, Vince Gill gave something far more valuable than money. He gave his heart. And that hasn't changed. In 1993, at the height of his fame, Vince didn't throw a lavish party or buy a new sports car. Instead, he launched the Vinny Pro Celebrity Golf Invitational, a charity golf tournament that blended 2 of his greatest loves, music and golf. But this wasn't just another celebrity fundraiser. Vince made sure the proceeds went to junior golf programs across Tennessee. specifically the First Tee initiative at Golf House, Tennessee, an effort to bring kids from all walks of life into the sport. Over the years, that one tournament alone has raised more than $8 million. That's not a typo. $8 million, all poured back into the next generation. But golf is just the beginning. Alongside his wife, Christian singer Amy Grant, Vince has spearheaded efforts for Challenge Aspen, a foundation that supports individuals with physical and mental disabilities through sports and arts. They don't just lend their names, they show up. Vince and Amy host annual benefit concerts, combining the power of music with the spirit of giving. In 2009, they performed at the Kennedy Center, launching Challenge America, a national initiative to help veterans reintegrate into civilian life through community programs, healing arts, and mentorship. And the list keeps going. He's the driving force behind All for the Hall, a campaign supporting the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, where Vince also serves as chairman of the board. His goal? Preserve the legacy of country music and make sure every kid who dreams with a guitar has a place to learn its roots. And even beyond music and golf, Vince quietly supports countless causes, from the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital to MusiCares, Children's Health Fund, Special Olympics, and City of Hope. There's no fanfare, no headlines screaming his name, just quiet checks, consistent support, and deep compassion. They call him the kindest man in Nashville. And it's not just a flattering nickname. It's a reputation built on decades of showing up. Not because a publicist told him to, but because his heart demanded it. Ask anyone who's met him. He remembers names. He asks how your mom is doing. He'll stay after a show just to shake hands with the janitor. Because for Vince, generosity isn't an act. It's a way of life. But where does that softness come from? That deep empathy? To answer that, we need to go somewhere even more personal. Home. Let's step behind the curtain and explore Vince Gill's life away from the spotlight. As a husband, father, and man of faith. Personal life. Behind every note Vince Gill sings, there's a story, and behind every story, there's a home. A real one. Filled with laughter, love, and quiet rituals that no award could ever replace. Vince's personal life, like his music, is built on authenticity. He doesn't curate it for cameras. He lives it gently, deeply, and with a kind of faith that doesn't preach. It simply is. At the center of it all is Amy Grant, his wife since 2000. Their love story wasn't born in fairy tale perfection. It rose from real-life complexity. Both came from previous marriages. Both had been through seasons of heartache. But together, they found something rare, a second chance. They were friends before they were anything more. Music brought them into the same orbit, but it was faith, mutual respect, and patience that slowly drew them together. Today, they're not just husband and wife, they're partners in the fullest sense. Whether it's organizing charity events, making music, or spending evenings walking the trails around their Tennessee farm, they do life side by side. Vince often calls Amy his safe place, and it's not hard to see why. Together, they've built a world that protects their peace, away from the pressure of fame and full of spiritual grounding. They have one daughter together, Karina, born in 2001, a bright, musically gifted young woman who in recent years has begun releasing her own music online. You can hear traces of both her parents in her voice, Amy's grace, Vince's soul. And while Karina is the only child they share biologically, the family unit is broader and beautifully blended. Vince is also the father of Jenny Gill, his daughter from his previous marriage to Janice Oliver. Jenny, too, is a singer, and she's collaborated with her father on several projects over the years, their harmonies weaving not just notes, but generations. Weekends in the Gill household are anything but glamorous. They might involve a family barbecue, Vince playing acoustic guitar on the porch, or Amy baking her signature banana bread while their dog naps by the fireplace. Their holidays? Often spent volunteering or hosting quiet gatherings with close friends, many of whom are also artists who've known Vince and Amy for decades. And yes, Vince still golfs, but not to compete or impress, to breathe, to think, to disconnect from the noise and reconnect with the silence that fuels his art. He attends church regularly, not out of routine, but reverence. Faith isn't a slogan in his household. It's a thread in every conversation, every choice, every pause. He doesn't need paparazzi to follow him into Whole Foods to make headlines. He'd rather be followed by a squirrel through the woods behind his house, humming a melody only he can hear. At his core, Vince Gill is a deeply present man, present with his wife, with his daughters, with his neighbors, with the strangers he meets at charity events and talks to like old friends. He's not trying to be the biggest name in music anymore. He's just trying to be a good man. And that, in today's world, may be the most radical act of all. But after all this, the homes, the cars, the music, the giving, and the love, what remains? Let's bring it all together and reflect on the quiet richness of a life truly well lived. In a world obsessed with volume, Vince Gill chose harmony. While others chased the spotlight, he built a chapel on a hill. While some counted their followers, he counted the number of children who got to swing a golf club for the first time. Because of him. Look at his life closely, and you'll see it isn't made up of red carpets and champagne galas. It's made of small, intentional choices. A farm where nature sings louder than headlines. A vintage Cadillac that still smells like the 1980s. A living room where guitars lean against the wall, waiting to tell the next story. His legacy isn't just the platinum records or Grammy Gold. It's Amy's laughter echoing across the fields. It's Karina's voice, finding its wings. It's the kindness passed on to strangers, students, and fellow artists. So what can we learn from a man who had everything and still chose quiet? That maybe success isn't about reaching the top. Maybe it's about building a life that makes you want to stay grounded. Maybe it's not about selling out arenas, but about hearing a creek run through your own backyard and knowing, this is enough. So now it's your turn. Did Vince Gill's story surprise you? Which part of his lifestyle speaks to you most? The sprawling Tennessee farm or the soulful Los Feliz mansion? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video if it moved you. And if you want more stories like this, homes with heart, artists with depth, lives lived off the grid and off the charts, hit subscribe and join us next time. Because behind every great song, there's a great story. And sometimes, the quietest ones are the most unforgettable.